I'm just wondering for you what you would like to see the league do in terms of making the games just be stretched out more evenly on a consistent basis.
You just met me and you're trying to get me fined. Uh, I'll plead the fifth on most of that. However, um, I think they have to look at just the load management on the players. That's the biggest thing, is just making sure the players are safe. Um, you know, as much rest as we can between performances. At the end of the day, you don't want things to affect your product. It's a really good product right now. People come to games. It's a good game. It's good basketball. And you don't want that to be diminished because of scheduling. Every time a fan steps in the building, they should see a great game. And I think that's something to always be taken into consideration, is at the end of the day, we're entertainment and people want to come and be entertained. And so putting a great product out there is number one priority. And scheduling can impact that. So I'll leave that there.
I have two questions, Becky. One, talk about the progress of Asia Wilson. What has she improved on in the years that you've seen in the championship years, and where her game is today? And then two, as far as bringing Lloyd off the bench and how that decision was made and how you've been able to, use the bench like you have.
Mm-hmm. Well, Asia just comes back better every year. I mean, when I got here, when I first worked her out, she came to San Antonio.
Recording in progress.
Fantastic. She came to the Spurs facility and I worked her out, and I was like, oh wow, like you can really shoot. And so, that was, because I kind of only had seen her in the mid post, low post, elbow area. So I was just pleasantly surprised at how great of a shooter she was. So it's always been a challenge for her to expand her game, but I think her finishing with pace, with the either hand, has really come a long ways. Her passing, her patience, her footwork and hands are next level. Like she catches everything. That's the one thing with great players, I think, that's not talked about enough, is the passes that they catch, especially when Chelsea Gray's your point guard. But she has really great hands, really great feet. So I don't know how much she works on those in the off season, but playmaking, bringing the ball up for us. Last couple of years, her bringing the ball up is better than a point per possession, which is a pretty good. We like that ratio. So just getting her more comfortable in those decision-making modes, not just being a scorer, but being a playmaker, because of how much attention she draws, and just making the right play night after night after night, play after play. Jewel came to me and wanted to change the scenery, I think, a little bit. Something, she was struggling in that starting group, shooting the ball. She's always done a lot of other things that I loved for the group. I was a little reluctant to do it. However, she's really kind of flourished in that role. And it just gives us a really great weapon. Anytime you have to game plan for a bench player to come in and possibly put 20 on you, that's a good problem to have. So I don't know. I mean, I that's probably a better question for her, but she just looks comfortable. Maybe she gets a beat on the game, kind of gets a feel, get settled in a couple minutes before she goes out there. But she's been great for us.
Coach, there have been a couple of times where you didn't shy away from, I'm not going to say criticize your players after some losses where you got beat pretty good, but you were you.
I was pissed.
Yeah, you were. Okay, let's just call it spade a spade. You were pissed, and you did kind of call them out. They've responded nicely. You look at that last Minnesota loss, and you think, are these guys, are they done? Hell no. So now you're on the winning streak. How were you able to make sure that locker room said, okay, that was them. This is now, let's go be and play Aces basketball?
Yeah, I mean, I was pissed after the Minnesota game too. I don't like losing. I know none of them like losing. So we're in the same boat. And I think at the end of the day, in those rough patches, you know, everybody got to stay on the boat. Nobody gets to jump ship. We just keep moving in the same direction. And in particular with that game, we had to move on. We were on a back-to-back. So it was one of those games that you just absolutely had to move on from. I mean, we had a game we had to win in less than 24 hours. So just keeping them responding, keeping them engaged, and keeping them encouraged. I mean, as much as I don't really say anything out public that I haven't said to their faces in private. We have very frank conversations. I'm very honest with them. I tell them when they're amazing, and I tell them where we can get better. But they do know I'm always going to be honest with them. And I think at the end of the day, there's been times where I've honestly felt like, yeah, I'd like to go off, but it just wasn't the time. At times, you're not supposed to be kicking them in the butt. You got to be hugging them, and you got to feel those times out as a coach.
Last question. This is kind of the storylines for this game, really fun. You look at two really solid MVP candidates, and obviously yours is the reigning MVP, AT having a monster season. Great storyline there.
Mhm.
You talk about 20-point scores potentially off the bench. We're looking at Duana, we're looking at Lloyd. This South Dakota thing that you've got going with Coach, I mean, there's some really fun storylines. Help us understand why this game is special because of those storylines and just because of the logjam in terms of playoff positioning.
I think it's special because you got special players. I mean, people want to come and see elite players. This game is loaded with elite players. You got, me and Nate both coming over from the NBA. We have very similar styles and philosophies on how we want to see the game played, and kind of what we brought over with us, So, I mean, there's no doubt though, Asia Wilson and AT are the headliners. So not being Nate for sure. No, I mean, I think it's a fun style to play. I think it's a fun style to watch. So we'll see what happens. I mean, right now it's 1-1. There's lots of implications on this game, whether that be tie-breaking status, just overall records. And I think you got two just really ultra competitive teams that enjoy competing. So it's in it a Friday night too. So all right, should be good.
Hey Becky, Stephen Prejean Gardner, PHN Exports. How you doing?
Good.
So we've talked a lot about defense every time I've had a chance to speak with you. One of the trends across the league and looking at the film between you two teams is a lot of cross matching.
Mm-hmm.
Not to get in your business, but how have you seen that wrinkle kind of add layers to teams across the W as far as making defense a little bit more nuanced, kind of shrinking the margins and things like that?
Well, I think what I've seen since I've been here is people a lot more willing to think outside the box, insofar as matchups, not so traditional. I know Nate thinks outside the box like that defensively. A couple other coaches too that we've played, they might do one scheme for our very first play and another scheme and another time. So now that the game is so fluid, there used to be a time when a tweener was a bad thing. Well, what are you actually? Are you a 4? Are you a 3? Are you a 2? And now I think people just want basketball players. And so within that, you see a team's switching a lot more. A lot more like size people, not, just it's untraditional, and I think makes the game faster paced. But now it's like you want people to play as many positions as possible, and you want that versatility. So I think that definitely affects the defensive end too, though.
Last one for me. Having been a smaller guard and been effective and winning at some of the highest levels.
What's your highest level?
My highest level?
Yeah.
High school.
You said highest level's winning at the.
For you.
Oh, I was like,
Oh,
what
I
levels?
thought you asked
Tell me.
Yeah.
Enlighten me.
I'm talking about for you winning at the
Oh.
highest levels.
I don't want to talk about me. I would rather talk about you.
I'm not the one in front of the mic. But for you, just in having that relation, being akin to Dana Evans,
Mhm.
how have you seen her grow and what's kind of been the relationship development between you all because of that relatability?
Oh man. She's somebody who's I'm constantly challenging. I think she has I call her gears. because she got so many different gears, and her number one gear is she's super fast, but that change of pace, the ability to get downhill. She's a little bit shy about getting in that paint, where I want her aggressive and attacking mentality to get in that paint. And then you make your decision. You probe, you finish, you make your choice, and we live with it. You make your rim read. But having that ability, she's somebody that I think could do that. And I think she probably gets tired of me of like trying to make her super, super ultra aggressive. But I'm gonna stay on her. She knows that. She knows if you asked her, was it my favorite Dana? She'll say an aggressive Dana. And that's exactly what I want her to be.
All right, we got to go a few questions on Zoom. We'll start with Kendra. Kendra Andrews on Zoom.
Hi, Becky. Kendra with ESPN. It's good to see you.
Hi.
I have a couple quick ones for you. I mean, you guys have quite a new group, right? A lot of different roster additions from the last couple of years, and I know that takes time to implement new players into your system, adjust your system with those new players. I'm curious, as you guys kind of navigated some of the ups and downs of the early months of the season, how do you balance adjusting and tinkering and wanting to figure it out versus knowing that you also naturally have to build familiarity, and your players have to build familiarity and chemistry with each other?
Yeah, I think we spent we're still building that chemistry. The chemistry piece never stops, right? You can always get to know the person next to you better. I'm getting to know them better. They're getting to know me better. They're getting to know and understand what's expected of them. But your chemistry and your feel with your players always evolving. But quite frankly, I think this group had to learn how to win with each other, and a lot of times it can fall apart when there's just hard time after hard time, or just, so close, but we lost another one, or so close and we lost another one. It's easy to lose the locker room, not only with myself, but them with each other. And they just haven't done that. They've dug in. My leaders have led when it's hard and difficult. And maybe when their night isn't going great, they've led regardless. And, you just keep encouraging those relationship buildings and that communication with each other, and knowing that, there was multiple nights I was like, we're right there. Please believe me when I tell you we're right there. And now that they're seeing it, it's easier to say that like after winning. It's
Right.
hard to say that so many times after a loss, but I did feel like, man, we're moving in the right direction. So we just have to stay the course. And, the one thing with hard times is that my only answer to them is they must be necessary for where we're going.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be going through it. So I think we've learned a lot of lessons. We've grown in the last few months. And we just keep putting one foot in front of the other. But it's always evolving on familiarity, putting people in the right spots, them getting to know me, and vice versa.
And secondly, when you were in San Francisco and we were chatting, we were talking about your assignment for them and their defensive schemes and coming up with those for themselves. I was wondering when you implemented that assignment for them, and then also, is that still going on? I know that you said Asia wanted you to take that back in August.
Yeah, they're still doing it.
Yeah.
I come in, obviously I feel like, we have our game plan. I think the players have their game plan. We look at matchups and we come in, we collaborate with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I like thinking players, so I'll give them a lineup, and then the next day I might go poke holes in that lineup and be like, well, what about this? What are we going to do with this action? And vice versa. And then they've been locked in at a different level since we've been doing that. There's a lot of ownership and accountability. It's worked very well for us. I'll leave it at that. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah. When did you start doing that? Sorry.
Oh, you'd have to ask A.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure. It was after a loss that I felt like we didn't execute. And, so I was like, well, and I'm always honestly interested in their opinions. At the end of the day, it's not what I think or this or that. Like, now, are there some things that I'm a hard no on? Yes. Or a hard yes? Yes. But a lot of things, you're the one out there playing.
Yeah.
You're the one feeling it. You tell me how you feel and how you want to guard it and how you think we should guard it. And I'll either like it or I won't like it. And they've come up with some pretty good stuff. So it's been very cool actually to hear their thoughts and see their thoughts and then get them to defend their ideas.
Yeah.
Which makes them look at the game differently.
Thanks, Becky.
Yep.
All right, we'll wrap up. Sorry, we got to go to Cali.
Coach, I just was looking at pictures from shoot around, and Asia had the tape from the existing wrist injury, but then new tape on the other hand, kind of going around her thumb. Based on your conversations with her, is that like, oh man, another injury, or is she kind of in preventative mode and she's just being like really careful this season?
I think she's just being cautious. I know a while back, in New York, she had heard it, but from what I understand, there's nothing really major going on there.
Okay, I'm wondering, and also just real quick, if you can kind of talk about what it's been like to watch her play through just various injuries this season, because obviously the wrist injury has not gone away. And she's kind of pushed through a few different things. She even had like a shoulder issue earlier in the season. What have you seen from her in the way that she's kind of pushed through maybe pain and different things that were nagging her this season compared to other seasons?
She's always been a tough cookie. I mean, she'll play through some stuff. There's certain players that I've played with or that I've coached where I'm like, oh, if they go down, I'm like, oh, they're going to bounce back up. Um, there's some players that everybody processes their pain differently. Some people had previous injuries that when they first get hit, they're more scared than anything, so they stay down a while. There's other people that it's the injury might be more serious. I was always of the thing of like, if I stay down, you should just take me to the hospital because something's broken. Like I'm popping back up every time. But Asia's one that if she stays down, I'm concerned because she's really, really tough-minded in that aspect. And she's always kind of pushed through though. She's always been a trooper. She's a gamer. She wants to compete. So she's kind of a mind over matter person anyways. She's going to find a way.
All right, thank you, Becky.
Yep.
Thank you.